Ever find yourself lying awake at night pondering the deep mysteries of science gone slightly off the rails? Well, you're in luck. We're not just dipping our toes, we're cannonballing into the deep end of the most bonkers human experiments that have ever dared to ask, what if? Imagine, if you will, a world where the line between groundbreaking and eyebrow-raising is thinner than a lab coat in a hurricane. That's where I'm taking you, from mind control misadventures to psychological puzzles that leave you scratching your head so hard you'll need a helmet. So, here's the million-dollar question. Would you volunteer as tribute in the name of science, not knowing if you'd come out a genius, or just geniusly bamboozled? Well, stash that thought in your mental vault for a hot minute, because by the end of this wild safari through science's oops moments, you might just be checking the exit signs. Experiment 1. The Stanford Prison Experiment. Okay, gather round for a tale that sounds more like a plot from a sci-fi movie than an actual study. Picture this: a university basement, some makeshift cell blocks, and a group of volunteers ready to play cops and robbers. Except, it's Stanford University in 1971, and this game gets way out of hand. The mastermind behind this social experiment, Philip Zimbardo, had a simple question. What happens when you give perfectly normal people power over others? Well, slap on some badges and prison uniforms and voila! You've got yourself a recipe for disaster. The guards started enjoying their roles a bit too much, and the prisoners? Let's just say they weren't thrilled about the accommodations. But here's the kicker. This psychological roller coaster was meant to chug along for 2 whole weeks. It barely lasted 6 days before someone yelled, "Break! Break! Break!" and put an end to the madness. Experiment 2. The Milgram Obedience Study. Let's take a detour into the wild world of obedience, shall we? Picture this. You walk into a lab and a serious-looking scientist hands you a device that looks suspiciously like it's made for zapping. This isn't a prank, folks. It's the 1960s, and psychologist Stanley Milgram is about to blow some minds with what's now known as the Milgram Obedience Study. The setup? Simple. Participants were told they'd be teaching others a lesson, literally, using electric shocks for every wrong answer. The catch? The shocks were as real as unicorns, but the participants didn't know that. And the learners? Actors who could give Hollywood a run for its money. Now you'd think people would hesitate, right? Wrong. With a scientist egging them on, folks were cranking up the voltage like they were trying to jumpstart a planet. The real shocker, pun intended, was how far people went, proving that with a lab coat and a clipboard, you might just convince someone to do the unthinkable. Experiment 3. The Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment. Now, buckle up for a trip down one of the darkest alleys of medical research history. Welcome to the Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment, a study that might just redefine your understanding of do no harm. Picture this, a group of researchers, a bunch of men diagnosed with syphilis, and a shocking twist. No real treatment was ever intended to be given. For an agonizing 40 years, scientists watched these men battle syphilis and did precisely squat to help them. That's right, folks. We're talking about a marathon of medical neglect that makes you question just how far off the ethical compass can veer. In this scenario, the stakes were infinitely higher, and the consequences, tragically irreversible. Welcome to a jaw-dropping moment in human experimentation that's as bizarre as it is heartbreaking. Experiment 4. Enter Project MK Ultra, the agency's top-secret program that sounds more like a rejected Bond villain plot than anything grounded in reality. Their mission? Cracking the code of mind control. Armed with an arsenal that included LSD, hypnosis, and a smorgasbord of other dubious techniques, these would-be puppet masters were on a quest to master the art of mental domination. The results? Well, let's just say they were about as effective as using a sledgehammer for brain surgery. In a twist that surprised absolutely nobody but the operatives themselves, controlling a human mind turned out to be slightly more complicated than they anticipated. The whole operation could have used a Mind Control for Dummies handbook, because by the end, the only thing they managed to control was an entry into the annals of what on earth were they thinking. So as it turns out, the human spirit is a bit more resilient than a weather balloon on a windy day. Experiment 5. The Monster Study. Alright, fasten your seatbelts for a quick dive into the Monster Study. Picture this. 1930s researchers with a wild idea to teach kids who don't stutter How to stutter. Yes, really. They took, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and did the exact opposite. By bombarding these kiddos with a hefty dose of criticism for every little slip-up, they hoped to unravel the mysteries of stuttering. Spoiler, it didn't end well. Turns out the real monsters weren't hiding under beds but were donning lab coats, proving that sometimes the scariest tales are hidden in the footnotes of science. Experiment 6. The Aversion Project. Get ready for a trip back to a time when bizarre was an understatement. The Aversion Project, a gem from apartheid-era South Africa, where they had the brilliant idea to cure homosexuality. Yes, you heard that right. Using electric shocks to change someone's sexual orientation. Because, science? Quick reality check. Shocking news, but your essence, your core being, doesn't flip like a switch. The real shocker was the utter lack of empathy and humanity. Experiment 7. Project 4.1. Step into the shadowy realm of Project 4.1, where unknowing participants found themselves in a real-life sci-fi scenario. Picture this, the Marshall Islands, a picturesque paradise, until it became the backdrop for nuclear fallout testing. Yes, folks, an entire community turned into unwitting stars of a radiation study. The residents got a glow-up nobody asked for, and those coconuts? Well, they went from being a tropical treat to something you'd expect to find in a post-apocalyptic diner. Experiment 8. Homing Pigeon Navigation Experiment. Ending on a lighter note, let's talk about pigeons wearing helmets. Sounds like a joke, right? But no, researchers actually tested whether pigeons could still navigate their way home while donning the world's tiniest headgear. Spoiler alert, pigeons turned out to be natural-born navigators, helmets or no helmets, outperforming your average GPS system. Who knew our feathered friends were so resilient? Next time you're lost and your GPS gives up, maybe glance skyward and consider the pigeon alternative. Just kidding. Or am I? This experiment not only adds a quirky chapter to the annals of scientific endeavors, but also wraps up our tour through the maze of human curiosity with a reminder. Sometimes, the most enlightening discoveries come from the most unexpected questions. And that, dear friends, is the true spirit of science.